The spirit's luminousness was bodied there.
Bodied, of course, is embodied there, or represented, we could say,
Yeah.
even typified or symbolized,
Mm.
So we're talking about the book of the Traveler of the Worlds,
Mm-hmm.
Canto 3, which is,
The glory and the fall of life.
right, page 124.
Life's contraries were lovers or natural friends, and her extremes, keen edges of harmony.
Can you do the first line a little better? Because it's life's contraries that were lovers or natural friends. We have to get that across.
Life's contraries were lovers or natural friends, and her extremes, keen edges of harmony.
Very good.
Indulgence with a tender purity came, and nursed the god on her maternal breast. There none was weak, so falsehood could not live. Ignorance was a thin shade protecting light, imagination the free will of truth, pleasure a candidate for heaven's fire. The intellect was beauty's worshipper, strength was the slave of calm spiritual law, power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss.
So Sri Aurobindo is giving us a lot here.
Mm.
So indulgence is here a tender purity. So it comes with a tender purity, and then it nurses the god on her maternal breast. So indulgence here is in the feminine.
Mm-hmm.
And indulgence, of course, is always characterized by benign leniency or permissiveness.
Mm.
So there none was weak, so falsehood could not live. Ignorance was what? A thin shade protecting light. That's all it was. The thin shade protecting light. And imagination, the free will of truth. See, these are very important lines that we through. Pleasure, so we have imagination, ignorance, indulgence, and now the intellect is beauty's worshiper. And we have after that strength and then power. So look how many he gives us in these lines, these consecutive lines. Strength was the slave of calm spiritual law. And power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss. Well understood, no?
Yes. Okay. There were summit glories inconceivable, autonomies of wisdom's still self-rule, and high dependencies of her virgin son, illumined theocracies of the seeing soul, throned in the power of the transcendent's ray.
Again, look how much he gives us. Summit glories, autonomies, dependencies, theocracies. So he's giving us this kind of overview of everything, so absolutely clear.
Yeah.
So these summit glories are inconceivable. You cannot understand how high they are. Autonomies are self-government or independence or freedom of the will or one's actions. So they're of wisdom still self-rule. So of this still here is quiet
Mm-hmm.
and high dependencies. Now, dependencies are territories that are not an integral part of a ruling country. So here
Mm.
there are high dependencies of what? Of her virgin son. And there are illumined theocracies. Theocracies are governments in which God is he's the ruler.
Mm-hmm.
We can say thearchy also.
Theo?
So theocracies or
Mm-hmm.
thearchies, singular.
Thearchies.
Yeah.
Okay.
So these systems have God as the highest, as the ruler,
Mm-hmm.
and they are throned. Now, throned, of course, we always know as sit on the throne
Mm-hmm.
as the ruler, but they're actually, I would say, they are throned, and here it's a verb, right?
Yeah.
So it has to be sort of sitting on the throne as a ruler,
Mm-hmm.
throned in the power of the transcendence ray.
Yeah.
So we're carrying.
A vision of grandeurs, a dream of magnitudes, in sun-bright kingdoms, moved with regal gait. Assemblies, crowded senates of the gods, life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will, high dominations and autocracies, and laurel strengths and armed imperative might.
What he is experiencing and seeing is just amazing.
Mhm.
So we have this first, this vision of grandeurs.
And
This is open to Ashwapati.
mhm.
He's seeing this dream of magnitudes. And in these sun-bright kingdoms, all of them moved with the royal gate.
Mhm.
The gate is, of course,
Like
a
walk.
manner or
Yeah.
bearing of walking.
Mhm.
Assemblies, groups of people gathered for a purpose. Crowded senates. I think you said senates,
Yeah, senates.
senates of the gods.
Senates.
And life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will. Marble, of course, is always something that's fixed, hard,
Mhm.
and often beautiful, polished.
Mhm.
I remember when Piero went to Italy to find
Mhm.
Carrara marble for the Matrimondia. And then he ordered it, and it was, in those days, things came easily without too much government interference. So
Ah.
they came very well.
Mm. For the
So,
inner chamber of Matrimandir?
pardon?
For the inner chamber in Matrimandir?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay.
So we now have high dominations. Dominations are authority.
Mhm.
But then we also have autocracies, which is an unlimited authority,
Mhm.
absolute governments. And laureled is something that symbolizes victory.
Yeah.
They used to do that in ancient Greece in the Olympics.
Mhm.
They would crown the winners with laurel.
Mm.
Laureled strengths and armed imperative mights, imperative,
Imperative.
commanding.
Imperative mights.
Yes, laureled strengths and armed imperative mights.
Okay.
All objects.
All objects there were great and beautiful. All beings wore a royal stamp of power.
I think you can do the previous line better.
All objects,
There, go ahead.
all objects there were great and beautiful. All beings wore a royal stamp of power.
You see, there is a beauty in your voice that you have to allow to come out. And you just did it there in that line. So remember that, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Good. There sat
There sat the oligarchies of natural law, proud,
and what is an oligarchy?
um,
A
like
government by the few.
governed by few. Okay.
Usually small factions of persons or families
Mm-hmm.
are an oligarchy. So this is plural. There sat the oligarchies of natural law. And we've
There
been
sat,
law.
yeah. There sat the oligarchies of natural law, proud violent heads served one calm monarch brow.
Monarch. Not
Monarch. Monarch.
mon. No,
Mon,
monarch.
monarch.
Yeah, almost monarch.
Monarch.
Yes.
Monarch.
Mhm.
All the soul's postures donned divinity.
And we understand that Sri Aurobindo has used Don quite a few times in Savitri. It means simply to put on.
Yeah.
So all these soul's postures donned divinity. Then we continue.
There met the ardent mutual intimacies of master's joy and the joy of servitude.
Masteries.
Masteries. Okay. There met the ardent mutual intimacies of mastery's joy and the joy of servitude, imposed by love on love's heart that obeys, and love's body held beneath the rapturous yoke.
Whoa. So this is very beautiful. The ardent, intense feeling, glowing with passion, ardent, mutual intimacies. And what are they? They're intimacies of mastery's joy and the joy of servitude. Yeah. But they are imposed by love on love's heart that obeys and love's body held beneath a rapturous yoke. So you have to image this in some way because it's a complex phrase. We know what a yoke is. It's yoke burdens. It's a burden.
Burden.
Yeah. And so here it's a burden of love's body that's being held beneath the rapturous yoke. Have we done the yoke love before?
We have, yes.
So we move on.
Yes. All was a game of meeting kinglinesses.
Yes, attributes of a king.
Mm.
Game of meeting kinglinesses. And now he's going to tell us why that is. For worship lifts
The worshipper's bowed strength, close to the God's pride and bliss his soul adores. The ruler there is one with all he rules. To him who serves with a free equal heart, obedience is his princely training school. His nobility, coronet and privilege, his faith is a high nature's idiom, his service a spiritual sovereignty.
Idiom, idiom.
Idiom,
Can I hear it again?
idiom,
No, idiom, idiom.
idiom,
Yeah, that's it. Idiom.
idiom.
So we see that the ruler there is one with all he rules. And to him who serves with a free, equal heart. You see, you have to serve, and we have to learn that. If you can serve with a free, equal heart, then obedience is our princely training school and our nobility's coronet. Coronet is a crown like ornament,
Mhm,
decorated with jewels or gold.
mhm,
She wears a coronet.
mhm,
But his nobility, his grandeur, his magnificence, coronet and privilege. And his faith is a high nature's idiom. Now, an idiom is something that is grammatical and natural to native speakers.
mhm,
So we have an English idiom,
mhm,
we have French idiom, which is totally natural to the French.
mhm,
And his service, look at this, is a spiritual sovereignty.
mhm.
Any questions?
No. There were there were realms where knowledge joined creative power in her high home and made her all his own. The grand illuminate seized her gleaming limbs and filled them with the passion of his ray, till all her body was its transparent house, and all her soul a counterpart of his soul.
So this grand illuminate, I talked about with three people.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll give you all of their definitions.
Okay.
Alok says the grand illuminate is the ruling light, the conquering, all-powerful light, the source, all referring to the divine from whom life originates and rushes down to animate all things. Beautiful, beautiful definition. Now, Amal, who's always very careful in Savitri, he says, these words apply to what is mentioned as knowledge 2 lines earlier, and
Mm-hmm.
it differentiated from creative power, in whose high home knowledge seizes this entity and unites it to itself, or
Mm-hmm.
the terms used, joins her to his own being. Then Jumur said the very embodiment of the light, the Purusha, masculine form. The
Mm-hmm.
illuminate represents knowledge. When knowledge joins creative power, you have luminous vitality.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to have their definitions, I feel. I
Yeah.
always appreciated that. So then the grand illuminate does these things, seizes her limbs, fills them with the passion of his ray, till all her body was its transparent house, and all her soul a counterpart of his soul. So we see that this is Purusha and Prakriti. Again, very clearly. Huh?
Yes.
Okay, carry on.
Apotheosized,
Apotheosized. Apotheosized.
apotheosized Transfigured by wisdom's touch, her days became a luminous sacrifice. An immortal moth in happy and endless fire, she burned in his sweet, intolerable blaze.
A lot to say here.
Mm,
Atheisized is exalted,
exalted.
deified, in fact, immortalized, you could say.
Yeah.
And you see, transfigure is also to glorify and exalt. So
Mm-hmm.
Aurobindo is giving us two slightly different but very similar definitions. So we have glorified or exalted,
Mm-hmm.
and transfigured, changed in appearance, but also glorified and exalted. So her days became a luminous sacrifice. And then he says she's an immortal moth in happy and endless fire. She burned in his sweet, intolerable blaze. So I have had that experience with Mother,
Mm,
that intolerable blaze. It's intolerable because you don't know where you are anymore. You're floating, you're burning and all,
mm,
but it's not negative in any way. It's very positive, very,
mm,
very beautiful.
mm,
And that's why she's an immortal moth, because the moth always goes towards the fire. But she's
mm.
immortal. She's immortal. And
Right.
she's happy in this endless fire. And
Mm.
therefore she's burning in that sweet,
Sweet.
intolerable blaze of the Purusha.
Mm.
And one more.
A captive life wedded her conqueror.
And I think that's a good place.
Yeah.
Good. So now you have to read everything.
Yes. The spirit's luminous the spirit's luminousness was bodied there. Life's contraries were lovers or natural friends, and her extremes, keen edges of harmony. Indulgence with a tender purity came and nursed the god on her maternal breast. There none was weak, so falsehood could not live. Ignorance was a thin shade protecting light, imagination the free will of truth, pleasure a candidate for heaven's fire. The intellect was beauty's worshipper, strength was the slave of calm spiritual law, power laid its head upon the breasts of bliss. There were summit glories inconceivable, autonomies of wisdom's still self rule, and high dependencies of her virgin son, illumined theocracies of the seeing soul, throned in the power of the transcendence ray, a vision of grandeurs, a dream of magnitudes, in sun bright kingdoms moved with regal gait. Assemblies, crowded senates of the gods, life's puissances reigned on seats of marble will, high dominations and autocracies, and laurel strengths and armed imperative minds. All objects there were great and beautiful, all beings wore a royal stamp of power. There sat the oligarchies of natural law, proud violent heads served one calm monarch brow. All the soul's postures donned divinity. There met the ardent mutual intimacies of mastery's joy and the joy of servitude, imposed by love on love's heart that obeys, and love's body held beneath a rapturous yoke.
I would say there met the ardent mutual intimacies.
There met the ardent mutual intimacies
Yeah.
of mastery's joy and the joy of servitude, imposed by love on love's heart that obeys, and love's body held beneath a rapturous yoke. All was a game of meeting kinglinesses, for worship lifts the worshipper's bowed strength, close to the god's pride and bliss his soul adores. The ruler there is one with all he rules. To him who serves with a free equal heart, obedience is his princely training school, his nobility's coronet and privilege. His faith is a high nature's idiom, his service a spiritual sovereignty. There were realms where knowledge joined creative power in her high home and made her all his own. The grand illuminate seized her gleaming limbs and filled them with the passion of his ray, till all her body was its transparent house, and all her soul a counterpart of his soul. Apotheosized, transfigured by wisdom's touch, her days became a luminous sacrifice, an immortal moth in happy and endless fire. She burned in his sweet, intolerable blaze. A captive life wedded her conqueror.
I think that's it.
Yes,
Good reading. Very good.
thank you.
So I'll see you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Namaste.
Namaste.